Hello, everybody. This is episode 10 of the Talking Rubbish podcast. Today, we're joined by Web3 community builder and educator, Rileybeans. And I must say, I do adore daily tweets. And I can't wait to discuss more about Web3, mental health, NFTs, and everything in between. And I know you've had a really busy day, so we really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us as well. But hey, Riley, nice to see you.
Hello, so good to talk to you and be here today. Yes, it's been a long day, a long week, a long month, but we are here and we are feeling great.
Well, we appreciate you making the time. Luckily, it's Friday, so tomorrow it starts the weekend, and we can all relax and just enjoy a nice, relaxing break from all the hard work that I think we all put into this space. But yeah, we'd love to hear so much about everything that you're doing. But for those who don't know, do you mind explaining who you are, what you do, and where you kind of landed in the space so far?
Yeah, of course. My name is Riley, and I am a community builder in Web3. I am also a trans woman. And I love bringing diverse voices into the space of blockchain and sort of helping people navigate this particular space and others, right? It's not just NFTs, it's not just DeFi, it's not just crypto, it's sort of this new way of creating and building and nurturing community and people. And I've been building community for the past maybe 8 years or so. And for pretty much that entire time, I've also been nurturing a career in IT. Um, I started out as a network engineer and moved into sort of incident management and this sort of process management, which does also have some inklings of community management into it as well, the admin side of things. And, that experience has led me into this beautiful world of community building in Web3, where a lot of what we're doing is discovering new things, new people, new places to go and be and experience, and trying to determine the best communities to be a part of is not always as easy as we want it to be. So having someone available to sort of be a navigator, communicator, coordinator of people is really important to me.
I love how you've been doing it. I didn't know that you had been doing that for so long, but I love um, how community builder is now. Because I when I first started the space and I discovered all of this, community builder wasn't a term I was familiar with. I didn't know that it existed, and now it seems to be not only a legitimate job or career, but it's so valuable. It's so useful. So I love that. I love that you're experienced, and I just have so many questions about like what a community builder is more than anything. I'm really interested in that. How would somebody be interested? How would somebody go about becoming a community builder if somebody was interested in that? And also what are the perks or benefits of having a strong, experienced community builder for their projects or for their goals?
Well, what's really interesting is that we've sort of, as humans, been building community wherever we are for, since the beginning of time, really. Even in the caves, as humans, we need to find people to sort of build a group of people who sort of care for each other and who are sort of in this existence together, and this sort of ties in with mental health, right? People in a community are there to care for one another and make sure that um the sort of the livelihoods of the group is taken care of, whether that is a community about football, or a community about people who love fashion, or community about people who love handbags, or technology, whether that's just like speakers or audio files. There's so many different ways a community can form and be and look and feel and how people navigate through that community, whether that's from onboarding to leaving the community. It's just such a beautiful journey, and the way that community has evolved over time on the internet, at least, is absolutely fascinating to me. Um, when you're talking about how does someone be a good community builder, or what does a community builder mean? I think that can mean a lot of things, right? It sort of depends on what community this person is trying to build.
Yeah, thanks, Riley. You kind of led me up to my second question. Actually, I know you said that you spent essentially 8 years community building, and obviously some of that will have been within Web 2. So I was just wondering what the difference is between Web 2 and Web 3 community building, and which do you prefer?
Yeah, so a few different communities that I've fostered so far is a couple of them on Facebook. One of them is a uh, community uh, around the pastel goth fashion industry. It's this sort of aesthetic that, these pastel purples and pinks and blues contrasted with blacks and grays and all these things, and how people express themselves. So that was a pretty big one where we were, hosting events, and I was in charge of training moderators to respond to people, and it was a lot of fun. However, Facebook is quite limiting in a lot of ways, and it has a lot of ways to grow in the way that you interact with each other. And then I also spent time on Tumblr, a lot of time on Tumblr, building fandom communities. And one of the communities that I helped build was one around the superhero Captain Marvel. So this community that we built was called Carol Core, and out of that sprang a lot of comic books, a lot of success in the industry, a lot of um, pushing the superhero forward into the mainstream, and we essentially ensured that she actually got that movie that she starred in. It was really exciting.
So Riley was responsible for the movie?
No, not me. Um, I had the absolute, honor to work with the writer of her comic book at the time and work with these people who were creating crafts and storylines and um, cosplay and memes and just all these different ways that people can appreciate a superhero is incredible. And I got to meet some really wonderful people in the comics industry, and be a part of some really groundbreaking type stuff.
Yeah, I was definitely just messing with you, but I'm sure that there was some sense of pride, going to the movies and
Oh,
enjoying
a
that
lot.
movie, right? That's
Yeah.
incredible, really cool. I'm sure you have so many stories. Like, I didn't realize how many communities you've been a part of, but I guess that makes sense. To be an experienced community builder, you've probably been in so many. So I'm sure you have so many stories with different people and just achieving different things, which is really cool. I guess what I
Yeah.
would ask is when it comes to community building. Oh, the cat is saying hi, by the way. uh, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Thanks, cat.
I can talk to you about some of the Web3 communities that I've been a part of, if you would like.
Well, I did want to ask because community. This I did have a question, which was that now that you have been a community manager, something that I thought would be really helpful is me and Mence constantly reach out to different communities, and we usually met first with a community manager, understandably. Um, but their job in a lot of ways is understandably to be almost be like a gatekeeper for the community going forward. So I guess I'd ask, do you have any tips for people who might want to be reaching out to certain communities or break into communities and talk to community managers? Do you have any tips based on your experience?
I sort of look at myself as this community enabler. Not necessarily I don't really love the term gatekeeper, because what I love to do is enable people to learn about communities and how the sort of values of that community and the guidelines and the rules and the sort of purpose of the community, how someone new or someone within the community can activate their potential and sort of see what they can do with the world through the lens of this community, right? That's what is so beautiful about the community industry, and how Web3 is changing that is really fascinating to me in the ways that, ownership is taking a precedence, and the way community members interact with each other, and also this token that the community decides the value of. It's really interesting to me.
I love what you said, though, as far as looking for to maybe highlight and unlock things within your own community, which I think that sometimes has been overlooked in a lot of other communities. There are community members inside communities that are just dying to be noticed or given a shout out or applauded. And I think the best communities are the ones that kind of elevate their own community members versus looking at others.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There are definitely the community champions that are there every day in the community, just providing so much value, and those people really need to be recognized, because if they aren't, then they will certainly leave and find appreciation somewhere else.
Yeah, great response, and I really like the term community enabler. I might have to steal that. But yeah, I think a lot of it is about consistency and being there. But at the same time, having that consistency and being there every day is going to take it's going to take an effect on your mental health, I suppose. So is there anything you've struggled as like with being a community? I nearly said community enabler. Then being a community manager, is there any like struggles you've faced yourself from having to have that consistency?
Yeah, I struggle every day. It's a sort of this wavelength of the ups and downs of a community manager and or community builder, leader, however you want to call it. It's this sort of roller coaster of emotions that you go through, of one minute you're overwhelmed, one minute you're completely lost, another minute you're dealing with someone's emotions of losing their asset or losing everything, and also trying to deal with your own stuff is in your personal life is just sometimes it's not as healthy as it could be or should be, or maybe will be in the future, but at the moment it's just this thing, this looming cloud of, oftentimes it's like, what's going to happen next, and how is that going to affect my day's outcome? And it's this sort of balancing act of, I might wake up in a good mood one day and then end it in a completely different mood. Not necessarily a bad mood, but just like you get in these weird weird moods where you're not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of pressure on you there, like to be there, and like if things go wrong, obviously you're the first part of call, so I can understand it is very high pressure. But I'll pass it over to Funge because I'm sure he's got a question.
Well, just thinking about the pressures that arise from being a community manager and builder, I can't imagine. Um, I can immediately relate and think there's probably some kind of sense of responsibility that is kind of thrust upon us that we may or may not may or may not even be true, but we kind of think it is, right? I don't know if you can relate to that at all, Riley, but are there pressures that you kind of put on yourselves because of that? And if so, how do you manage that?
No, you're right. I have talked about this numerous times where there is a lot of pressure of performance. There's a lot of pressure to sort of innovate and innovate quickly and before the other person. So there's a lot of pressure on a community manager to sort of do things differently every single week or every single day, and or at least that's the pressure that I feel. Maybe it's not realistic, maybe it is, I don't know, but it is certainly a pressure of everyone's eyes are sort of on you, and if you and I guess the pressure is if you screw up, then it could mean the downfall of an entire project sometimes, especially when the community manager is in this role of being the face and the voice of the brand, oftentimes. And even though that's the case, sometimes the founders are the people who are in the press interviews and doing the fundraising and stuff like that. But then um, the other part of it is sometimes what people are seeing publicly is the community manager's voice and creativity and um, actions that are sometimes different than other people, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think as well, because essentially being like the community lead, you any of like things that go wrong, you're essentially the first port of call before like even the founders, aren't they? So I can understand how much pressure there must be, but
And there's just a successful brand company NFT is more than just one person, right? The community manager is just one. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot to be said that maybe a lot of eyes are on maybe just a community manager, but there's so much more that goes on behind. So I definitely understand that. But I guess follow up question would be, uh, Riley, since you can relate to that, if there was another community manager that was like struggling and heard this, what would you tell them, like as far as like facing those stressors of those responsibilities or those pressures?
I think the best thing that you could do is find these mental health advocates in the space and sort of learn from them if you're having a tough time. I think that another one of the things that I would recommend is finding your network of support and having people that you're able to reach out to when you're having a bad day or you're needing that extra support of someone who really does understand, right? Um, the network that I have is absolutely incredible, and I cannot thank every person who supports me enough. It's just an entirely different level of support that I've been able to receive in this space in the community industry here. And the beauty of Web3 communities is that everyone is so giving and supportive and loving and actually caring, and people do show that with actions in this space at least. um so I would recommend also that you know take a step back and really um, view the situation from a community member's perspective or someone who is outside of the community, right? If you are having a tough time, mm, maybe someone else is seeing it a little bit differently than you are.
yeah, I think next time anybody's yelling one utility, just think there are people behind these screens as well. But like what you were saying, there are so many amazing people in the space, yourself included, and I'm all about onboarding and getting as many people into like the positive things within Web3 as possible. But what do you think the Web3 space is doing wrong, like in terms of inclusivity and diversity, and how would you change it?
um you know Wrong is an interesting thought. I think that people are doing the best that they can do at the moment with the technology and the knowledge that they have. I think that also We have to give a little bit of grace to people as they grow as humans, as people who are coming from different walks of life. What I think is that people can do better with more education and maybe a gentler approach. I think that what we can do to make things better is diversify the space and have these different voices come in and sort of guide conversations in a more inclusive way to make sure that people understand that there are people in the world who do actually move differently through their lives, as maybe a poor person or someone who doesn't have much in their possessions. Maybe they're struggling financially. Maybe they're having a bad time with their family life, or like their country is in turmoil. I think we just need to think more about those people who are dealing with a lot in their real lives, detached from technology and what we're doing here in the blockchain space. Um, so I think maybe people aren't doing things wrong, um, but I think that they can do what they're doing better, you know?
I completely understand. I agree with that. I think we've seen firsthand on our spaces, and also, I guess, with my work, I've had front row seats to so many different kinds of people, and I can tell you that no one knows what they're doing. Everyone is doing their best. Everyone is trying their hardest, and yeah, it's unfair to say wrong, right? But people are trying. Nobody's ever actively or consciously been doing something. To hold on to anger and hate, and claim things are wrong is a recipe for probably more anger and hate and stress, probably. So I really like what you're saying. I definitely agree with that. But I guess on the same topic though, I love a lot of things that you do. I also um, love how open you are about who you are and how you want to be inclusive for other people. And since you've been in the space, have you noticed any positive changes or things changing?
Um, to be honest, no. I don't I don't think things have necessarily gotten better. As sort of the same since I started in the space. I I I don't know what's going to change the or move the needle. I don't have a magic ball. I don't know what's going to bring the change that I want to see. Um, Maybe that's mass adoption. Maybe that's a change in perception about what the blockchain is in general. That's probably going to be the magic bullet, is figuring out how to get people to sort of understand that this isn't all bad and that good people are here. I think that there I I believe the future of the space being more inclusive and diverse is, some sort of event has got to happen to sort of usher those people in. I was hoping that it would be the merge, but I wasn't that hopeful about that either.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like we're on the edge, and it's just kind of we need that little nudge for the snowball effect to kind of start rolling. I think, but I know you were saying there's like just talking about people who you like in the space, and I was just wondering, is there anybody who you look up to yourself in the space?
Well, someone who you know, there are a lot of people that I really appreciate and do see as a clear inspiration, and people like Randy Zuckerberg and Path from Take Up Space, and Data, who you've spoken to before, I believe. He has been an inspiration for me since February, when I first heard about him. I am inspired, almost more than anything by men showing up and being actually good people. Um, I think that's really important for women specifically to see that there are good men in the space that are fathers and lovers and uh, technologists and innovators in the space who are actually good people and not tech broy, you know. I think that's important for us all to see. But other people are like Jones from Queer Friends and Majestique from BFF. It's really important person to me.
I think that I love that you didn't just have one answer there. You had a lot of inspiration, and I love that about. I've noticed that a lot about other people that we've talked to that are just inspiring others. They also constantly get inspired by many others as well. So I think just being open minded and being able to just see value in everyone is kind of a consistent trend that I see on everyone. But something that
Oh,
I go ahead, please.
well, I wouldn't be anyone if I didn't find inspiration in others, you know, my whole life, you know.
And that leads perfectly to what I wanted to ask next, which was I started following you a little earlier. I guess not too early, but I noticed that you kind of grew a far following kind of quickly, and I felt when it was happening as a fan like it's very well deserved because I felt like you you would share things about I wouldn't say that they were personal always, but I felt like you were always sharing a lot of like personal thoughts, I guess is what I would say, and you would also highlight things with tips, and you just have a good way of just expressing yourself. So I've noticed that, and I love when people can do that because it does you kind of even though in this space a lot of us are anonymous, or I like to say that we're semi-anonymous because we have to keep showing up every day. We you do a good job of just kind of expressing who you are. You express a lot of vulnerability, and I guess I wanted to ask you about that. Like how have you managed to do that if it's true, and the value of just being authentically you, and how that's helped you in this space.
Well, so I don't know if you know this, but I didn't start my Twitter account until January 29th, I think. So it's pretty new. I did have a Twitter account before this, and I deleted it the day that I created this account. I just said no more. I'm done with that life. Um, I will say, you know, and I I don't think I've actually ever told this story, but this is a mental health space, so I figured why not. So my old Twitter account um, was not used very much, and I had a lot of other trans friends that I interacted with on that account, and ended up, you know, getting sort of uh, in a friend circle that wasn't very healthy for me and other people, and sort of was sexually harassed at a couple of times, and in person as well. So it wasn't that fun. So I was glad to have an opportunity to um, delete that account and start fresh. Um, but the reason that I feel like can be open is, you know, obviously because of the PFP, and not many people knew me at the start. And so I just continued being my authentic self because I really feel like that's how someone gets to know you. And I want more friends because I've always made friends online, right? It's always just been easier for me to make friends that way. And if I don't tell people who I am, then they won't know who I am, if that makes sense. And so that's sort of that's part of how you make friends is being vulnerable, being authentic, and um, providing a sort of idea of who you are as a person, and also providing value. I don't know, like I don't know what it means to grow a following or anything like that. I just share whatever thoughts come to my head, and a lot of the tweets that I send out are, are relevant to like what I'm thinking at the time, obviously, and what's going on in my life. But it's also important to say things that other people could use as well. So even though it's relevant to me, it might also be relevant to someone else. So I try to create content that is of value to other people as well as myself. I just say whatever is important to me, and I write content that I would want to read if I was reading it and not writing it.
I, I've noticed that, and I love it. And we say this all the time to people that there is so much value when someone is as authentically themselves, and when they share. Even if you're going through something really dark, if you share it, you'd be surprised how helpful it is for somebody else to hear it. So I'm very sorry that you went through that, by the way, with the old Twitter. But I hope that you love Rileybeans, because we love it, and it's a great chapter in your life, and I'm excited that we're a part of it, at least for the second.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun getting to know people here and making connections and networking with people while also making friends. I think that I've met a lot of people who I've been able to actually connect with on like a personal level, and it's been really important to my growth. And I can see the effect that it's had on others too, which is really meaningful to me.
I gotta ask then, since you started the new Twitter, why Rileybeans? What's the story there?
Oh, you know what? I have no idea. I this you know
No deep origin story behind the name.
okay, so the origin story behind my actual name, which is Riley, I named myself after a YouTuber who I really appreciate. Her name is Riley J. Dennis, and when I was coming out as trans, I was trying to figure out what am I going to rename myself, and I was just going through this process of learning about myself, learning about other trans people who were having similar experiences, right? And um, I really do admire this person, and I was like, well, at the time, I initially came out as non-binary, and um, I quickly determined that that was not the way that my gender was aligned. So I experimented with that sort of um, thing, and that gender stuff in the beginning, and sort of figured it out on my own by talking to other people, reading stuff, watching a lot of YouTube videos about what other people are thinking and how they view their own gender, and figured out that that name sort of fit. And I
And the
have no idea about the beans. People talk about like the cat toes being beans for Paul's. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah, the beans, the pads.
Yeah. So it can mean multiple things. I mean, obviously, like someone Ashlyn, who's one of my Web3 friends, she drew this version of me, this little fan art that I absolutely love, with these jelly
She's
beans.
amazing,
And
by the way.
yeah, I I I love Ashlyn and I love jelly beans, and so that totally fits. I you know like actual beans, the food, are okay. Like I'm amenable with them. You know, I prefer jelly beans though.
Um, yeah, I love that. I know I'm going to try and link it in together. I know you said like briefly you were touching on comic books and stuff, and I know you're also saying that like in certain friend groups you do have a front, don't you? But I feel like within the space it feels like you can be more of your authentic self. And I know you provide a lot of value, and like you said, you kind of like remade your Twitter, and then just you exploded as Rileybeans on this account. But to tie it into kind of superheroes, do you think the PFP like helps with that, like being behind the PFP? Do you see it as like your PFP is kind of like a power kind of thing?
You mean like a sort of dual identity? I don't know. I think a lot of people see the PFP as a branding tool, right? I've heard a lot of people's mention that my personal brand is very applicable to the PFP that I've chosen. And what's interesting about that is this PFP actually was one of the mints that was gifted to me during the BFF collection launch, and it just so happened that it revealed in this beautiful rainbow background and the pink hair, and it's just so perfect for me. And it's really interesting how the NFT space works that way, and that reveals sort of these themes, and it's been this ongoing thing with me where I keep minting and revealing NFTs with pink hair or pink traits, and it's just weird that it works out that way, you know? Um, the world is weird. The Web3 space is interesting that way.
I've learned early on that when coincidences like that happen, it's better to just accept them, appreciate them rather than fight them, because they're there. They have to be there for a reason. It's more
Exactly.
fun, right? I did want to ask then too. Uh, you mentioned BFF. It's a great NFC project, a big name. They've done a lot of great things. What was that like? What did you learn from working with them?
You know, when so many people get onboarded at once, it is sort of stressful in that you're trying to protect all these people at once and sort of being a blockchain mom to them. And a lot of people sort of counting on you, and that's where that pressure comes in, where you want to be sure that people are as safe as possible while also educating them on certain practices and how the blockchain works and what an NFT is, what a wallet is, what a ledger is, what all these different things do and are, and what their functions are, and also while like entertaining them. Uh, and so everything that I've done literally culminated in this one sort of happenstance where I was able to take every experience that I've ever had in my life and just like pour it into this community and really cultivate this group of people who care about each other, about each other's well-being, and um, bringing more people like them into Web3 in investing or artwork or um, brand building. And it was just really beautiful to see something come out of a live event filled with celebrities and just the most brilliant women and non-binary leaders possible.
I when you mentioned that you were onboarding people and helping people, then you might be very well equipped to do this, because I struggle with this. Mensa struggled with this, and we asked Data too, and he had a really cool example. Uh, but I think everyone has their own way of doing this. But what would be like your elevator pitch when it comes to like explaining what an NFT is? Because that's difficult and everybody kind of has their own way of doing it.
You know, when I think about ownership, it's not always an easy conversation to have. When you think about the way that you can use and on-chain piece of artwork or technology. It is something that can be used in so many different ways, and there's so many different use cases to bring people together based off of a piece of art or a collection of art. And being an owner of that art means you own a part of the blockchain. You own this little piece of land that connects to your receipt digitally. And I think that's really beautiful. I see a lot of, truthfully, I do see a lot of beauty in technology, and I want other people to see that as well, and just sort of connect those dots.
I like that explanation. That's better than I could have done. Right, Mens?
Yeah, I think we still struggle now. But in terms of like NFTs and stuff, and I know you were talking about earlier, there needs to be like a kind of catalyst, to get more people in. And in my personal opinion, I think it'll be non-transferable tokens, because that opens up the door to a lot of bigger like people getting in. So with non-tradable tokens, you can have certification, prescriptions, and I think that'll be really helpful once like the bigger companies start getting on board with things like that. Because how many times have you like lost your like certification for your CVs or something? But if it's all in one place, I think that'll be a massive thing for onboarding people.
Um, I've been thinking about that a lot recently because I'm putting together something myself where um, people who go through this course based off of a subscription NFT will receive a certificate. And I was talking to a few people about non-transferable tokens and how it's not really, it's not soul bound. It's manipulating a smart contract so that you can't actually take it out of your wallet. And it's really interesting in that turns out the smart contract owner can really control how the levers are pulled and twisted in these really interesting ways to use the blockchain as this sort of um, accountability tool, really. So I'm really interested to break that mold and be one of the first people to bring that to life. I'm really looking forward to it.
And you would do that. You mentioned a course. What do you mean by that? What's the course about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be talking about that over the course of the next few weeks, but I think it'll be really interesting to um, give people an opportunity to sort of put this on their Web3 resume and have them be able to, a lot of people use these galleries, or they need a certificate to be able to show an employer, say, hey, I'm certified in this specific what you call it specialty, and I've been trained or went through this course by this person who is well respected in the space, and I think that's going to be definitely a way to move this space forward.
We could absolutely relate to that. We want to do something similar. We want to do our own type of training, and once you figure that out, please let us know, because that's I agree. There's so much value, and just kind of it's the future of, I guess, maybe not status, but maybe education, or just advancing in a career in this space for sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I like the thing I like about Web3. It's more you're more like locked in by how much you can like your ideas, aren't they? If you think something, there's probably somebody who can kind of like some developer who can probably help you along and bring that idea to fruition. But just to kind of touch on the same kind of thing, I know you were talking about educating people like in Web3. How would you explain an NFT to them? But What about your friends who like aren't into the Web3 space and NFTs? Are they like supportive of it, or do they just not bother asking questions?
You know, I haven't really been out with my friends in real life since being in NFTs, except for a couple of times where, we had some intentional meetings and I sort of explained what I do and what we're doing in this space. And they sort of understood, but were really hesitant and were confused about how people are making money in the space, or how people are connecting the dots on as far as the technology is concerned, right? I think a lot of my friends are on the margins, whether they are also trans or gay or sort of these activist types. And so they are definitely skeptical based off of the headlines that they see in the news, or the from what they see of the energy usage, or the fact they see so many scams in the space being reported. And it's difficult to sort of convince people to experiment when all they see is the things that are wrong, or the people that are being malicious. And because so many of my friends are of a different political spectrum, very leftist, very anarchist or Marxist in their political views, they may not be most of them are very anti-capitalist, and this is a very capitalist minded space. And I would love to change that view. I would love to bring and these ideas that you don't have to be talking about money all the time to be able to create a meaningful and purposeful community of people who own digital assets, right? I don't think that we need to be talking about money and price go up and floor go up all the time. I think we can make actual impact that changes lives, that uses this technology. And I think more people can see that, hey, we can change lives in real, actual ways.
Yeah, I think there's so much negativity surrounding NFT just in the media and everything, and I think that's why we're really passionate, like with what we're doing, and just shining a positive light on the people that are doing good things within the space. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that. I mean, the first time I heard about NFTs was people paying like 500,000 for the bored apes and stuff, and then next you hear everybody's getting scammed. And it, like you said, there is essentially a stigma surrounding Web3 just in like the media from just all the negative things. But being in the space yourself, you can see so many people just trying to build something for the greater good. And I think the more we can shine a light on that, like what you're doing, and like what we're doing, I think the more you can shine a light on the good things within the space, I think that's going to help a lot with bringing people in as well.
I do think that there's a lot more in here than in this space than money, making money or losing money. The community aspect is amazing. The creativity explosion that is in the space and individuals is also amazing. And then there's just so much other positive things for sure. But I think maybe the the making money quickly part is maybe I don't, I'm totally guessing, but maybe it's just a stage, and maybe in the future the technology itself will be appreciated more in the next stage. And so, but on the topic of maybe the future, I kind of want to bring it back to Riley, and I thought, Riley, now that what are you up to now, and what's coming for you? What have you been up to?
That's an interesting question, because since leaving the team at BFF, I have obviously been unemployed. I've been looking for work in the community space and in Web3, and really trying to find where I fit in. I mean, I know where I fit in, but I'm trying to find um, a team that is really building with social impact in mind, and um, really fits into my own personal values, and I want to create community and these connections and these networks that really not just push the blockchain space forward, but the world at large. I really want to make an impact that can be felt all around the world, and that's my goal. It might be a lofty one, but I think that we together can make it happen.
Absolutely. If you want to do that, you've got to dream big, haven't you? And I think everybody starts somewhere, and we're all doing things in our own way to try and do that. So really appreciate you saying that, and I think you will be you'll be one to do that. Just from everything that we know about you, and like just everything that you're doing with your tweets. I mean, we do the daily quote of the day thing. I would use you as a quote of the day every day if I could, but I think other people might get jealous. But just to like bring it round a bit. I know I'm talking about the comics again. I know you said you're into comics.
I was thinking that too when Riley was saying that the lofty goals. I immediately thought they made a movie based on some of the work that you've done, and I'm sure there was a lot of parts, a lot of times that you thought that's not possible. If you dream big and you work hard enough, I think a community with a lot enough voice that's organized enough and passionate enough can do a lot. Sorry, I thought the same thing though. I thought comics. So I think we were thinking the same thing, man. Go ahead.
I think we've been spending too much time together. We're becoming like a hive mind. But yeah, just to touch on the comics thing. I know you said you were like into comics with like Captain Marvel, but I just wondered how did you get into them, and like, is there any of your particular favorites?
That's a good question because I've been a lover of comics and superheroes since I was literally a child. I think some of the first superheroes that I knew about was like Wolverine and Jubilee and those from the 92 era of X-Men. I love
Oh, the theme
Batman
song is
so much. Oh
the
God,
theme
yes.
song is stuck in my head now. Thanks.
Best theme song ever created, I believe. I, I'm getting a little bit emotional talking about comics because I, I believe in the impact that superheroes have on the world, and actually have two Batman tattoos, one on each wrist. I I just resonate with who Batman is, and not necessarily like the punching people and stuff, but I I believe in helping and justice and doing good for the world, philanthropy and stuff like that. I also really love uh, what he does with um, you know bringing you know different Robins into the world. Although Batman has done a lot of bad things, and I don't agree with everything he's done. You know, growing up, I didn't have a lot of money to actually purchase comics, and my family wasn't a big comics fan, but I was, and so I used superheroes as this sort of escape from the world around me, and I think that really helped me get through some tough times.
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly follow up. You want a question, but I think like you said, like you wanted to change the world, and I think like it sounds like the comics that you read when you were younger had a lot of inspiration to do that, and I think you definitely going to achieve that. So yeah, thank you.
I think that I agree. By the way, for sure, X-Men theme song, the best ever for sure, and Batman is awesome as well. I think I think that's a good place to even wrap up the space. I think we've learned a lot about Riley and about everything that they've done and what they're doing. I'd love to just highlight that you please keep being your authentic self. Um, people follow you for a good reason. It matters. As long as you keep being yourself, I think people will relate to it, and I think it's safe to say that you are a superhero in your own right. and you don't have to push any, and you don't have to even punch anybody. So congrats on that. That's an amazing feat in itself. But we're gonna upload this. We're gonna record this to YouTube and Spotify, and other people can refer to it later. So if anybody is interested in following up or contacting what Rileybeans is up to, where would you send them, Riley?
I would send them to my Twitter account, Rileybeans_ETH. That's RILEYBEANS_ETH.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes out now. If I see your PFP in the sky, I know that you're going to be out helping people.
Thank you very much for making time, Riley, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.